Today we are talking about preparing your QuickBooks Desktop file for working with Webgility. Again, sort of an introductory topic, making sure that things are set up correctly on an e-commerce basis from QuickBooks to Webgility. So this session is going to be pretty, we'll say surface level. We're going to take you through just basically the recommended settings or the recommended approach for each one of these points that we're going to cover. And then Manish is going to do a live demo, sort of show you where that stuff exists, just to make it easy for you. This session could go under what our normally like 30 to 45 minutes mark is. But if you guys have questions, that is definitely the time to ask them. We'll have plenty of time to answer questions, regardless of what they are. So just to get some introductions out of the way, if you've never seen or seen my face or heard my voice, I am John May. I am the engagement manager here for Webgility. Been here for 5-ish years, and worked in e-commerce for a really long time. I'm joined by Manish. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Manish.
Yeah, I've been working with Webgility for last 6 years as an Webgility onboarding expert. So yeah, even before Webgility, I worked with some other companies as a consultant, helping clients on how to manage e-commerce channels data, sales or inventory in accounting systems. So it's been like almost 10 years serving clients in e-commerce industry.
Love it, love it. Yeah, and I always say this, but I love that we have the implementation team on these sessions. I mean, I can, talk my
Oh,
way around Webgility and e-commerce. I do it every Thursday as well and on our e-com clinic sessions, but having implementation here means that, you guys work with Webgility every single day. I used to be on the implementation team, so I know exactly how knowledgeable you guys are. And so you guys can really answer the nitty gritty questions, get into it a little bit more than I can. I'm not necessarily removed from Webgility by any means. I still understand how it works, but there is a substantial difference when you can, work with customers every single day on that. So
yeah.
appreciate you being here, Manish.
Yeah.
Yeah, the agenda today, again, it seems like this is a lot, but it's very, very surface level. Each of these points, we're just going to cover, what we recommend and maybe some bits about why we recommend it, based on, the type of business that you run or the type of accounting that you're doing. So, we'll start off with order types, move on to handling payments, customer management, how you should handle customers in your QuickBooks company file, product management, the chart of accounts, making sure that that's set up correctly. We'll end with sales tax and reconciliation setup. So again, we're kind of covering the whole gambit, but it's at a surface level, sort of.
Just
Uh,
one heads up I would like to give here is when you're in e-commerce industry, you're selling, okay, you're having profits, you're getting sales from your e-commerce channel is good. But when it comes to accounting, having those records in accounting, uh, for a common man, it seems like, okay, it's just a sale I want to record in the accounting system. But accounting need to be managed. It's really based on what kind of business you have and what kind of accounting patterns you want to manage, what kind of financial records you're looking for, what's your end goal in financial record uh, reportings. So that's why it's very important. We're going to talk about this each point so that it's going to get you an idea how your sales should be managed in accounting system.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good call out. And I'll kind of even add on to that in that, like, sort of the philosophy that we have at Webgility is that you should be pulling as much data as possible into your system of record, with generally QuickBooks or Zero. And the way that we recommend setting things up is that you are, getting granular with all the different types of data that exist in your sales channel and making sure that those are, flowing through into QuickBooks in an efficient way, that gives you the visibility that you need across all of your channels. So, just to get started with the first one, order types. So, last customer webinar a couple weeks ago, we covered pretty substantially order types, and just orders in general in QuickBooks Desktop. But just to give you the sort of recommendation that we make when it comes to setting up QuickBooks Desktop for orders, if you're on a retail, like paid orders sort of workflow, you're direct to consumer, business to consumer, which B2C, D2C, we generally recommend a sales receipt or a paid invoice. Mostly sales receipt on the retail end, because when people are checking out on Shopify, They are paying at checkout, right? You're receiving the payment, the transaction's effectively complete, the paper trail ends there, essentially. So from that point, you're pulling in the sales receipt and everything that comes with the sales receipt. So if you're pulling in expenses and stuff like that alongside of it, but the sales receipt's generally recommended there. And then for B2B or wholesale or business to business, you're looking at unpaid terms, orders type workflow, and that's going to be sales order, invoice, or estimate. And the thing with estimates is it's sort of a precursor to a transaction, right? It's not the actual transaction taking place. So generally, an estimate isn't going to flow through WebGility in any meaningful way. Most people will end up on that sales order or invoice mostly workflow, but it is always an option, and it is something that you can set up to work with WebGility.
Yeah, another reason, if you have a business and why in a situation where you want to use sales orders and estimate when you have a sale but you haven't got the shipment done, you really do not want inventories to be adjusted in your QuickBook or accounting system, but you want sales records only. That's when you create sales order estimates, so that once your team, warehouse team or product management team confirms order can be accepted, it can be fulfilled, that's when you convert sales order estimates into invoices. When you convert them to invoices, that's when your inventory gets adjusted for the quantity sold out in that order. Uh, yep, and the main reason, I mean, the main differentiation between B2B and B2C, B2C is B2C are those paid orders. You get the payment upfront from your buyers. uh, a wholesaler as such just you ship the product as of now, but you haven't got the payment yet. You will be getting payment in future after 15 days or 30 days. So you want to keep those invoices open. When you keep those invoices open in QuickBook accounting system help you to pull AR aging report that lets you know how many customers are there from whom you need to collect payments. Otherwise, you got thousands of customers whom you sold the products, but you have no idea who might want to collect payment from. So that way, if you manage terms properly for the invoices and keep them open, based on the terms as well, based on the open invoices, QuickBook can give you the great report whom you want to collect payment from in how many days.
Yeah, that's a good way of boiling it down, honestly. So yeah, ultimately, and just to kind of clarify, WebGility allows the sort of the workflow for converting those estimates and converting the sales orders into an invoice as well. So using any of those three options is going to, create a pretty solid paper trail for you. And ultimately, yeah, the reason that you would use sales order invoices and estimates is to make sure that you're able to understand your cash flow, understand where your transactions are at with your customers, especially if you're working on that, terms sort of basis, as opposed to, just getting paid up front from Shopify at checkout, right? Sales receipts are a lot more simple, a lot more straightforward. But yeah, the sales order invoice estimate sort of workflow is super effective for people that use terms, right? So, um, perfect. Moving on to payment handling, if you want to kind of dive into this one.
Yep. So once you've decided how you want to manage orders, the next is about payment handling. So if it's a retail business, you're getting payment upfront, your buyers are paying during the checkout, and there could be several various methods they are paying, making the payments through cash, check, credit card, and if it's a credit card transaction, you might be getting receiving payments through multiple merchant accounts, maybe Stripe, PayPal, Shopify, or etc., or maybe Amazon if you're using Amazon. So in your accounting system, let's just talk about the retail business first. If it's a retail business, you have to manage payments in QuickBook. There are two standard way to manage payments in QuickBook. One is when you're adding the sale in QuickBook, at the same time you add the order payment as well. You create a closed order entry type like sales receipt or page invoices. When you do that, at the same time your order payment is also getting recorded in QuickBook. But where exactly you should have that payment in QuickBook? Two ways. One, the standard accounting is undeposited fund account. Undeposited fund account is like a common holding account in QuickBook where all order payment lies. You really want all order payment to show in a kind of holding area, holding account in QuickBook. You don't want order payment to go to checking account unless money is in your bank. Because when you're dealing with the clients, when you're dealing with the sales on the e-commerce industry, you have the money received from your buyer of the product, but you haven't got the money in the bank yet. Money stays in your merchant account. So you want to keep the money in the QuickBooks holding account as well. And the common account is undeposited fund account. So all auto payment will show up on undeposited account. And then once you have the money in the bank, that's when you move money from undeposited fund account in QuickBook to your checking account in QuickBook. That's a standard practice. But the challenge here is undeposited fund account is like a common account in QuickBook for all kind of order payments. So if you want things to be more classified, simplified, and granular, you can create dedicated clearing accounts in QuickBook. Clearing account is also just kind of, you can say it's a dedicated undeposited fund account for a specific merchant account. For example, if it's a Shopify you're dealing with, so you can create one clearing account in QuickBook for Shopify, one another clearing account could be created for another merchant account, Stripe or PayPal or so that when you have orders coming from a store, their payments are getting recorded under dedicated clearing account for Shopify, PayPal, Stripe. And when you do the reconciliation, when you have monies in your bank, it should be easy for you to find all those relevant transactions in QuickBook, and then you should be able to do the reconciliation easily. So yeah, creating multiple clearing account is really best way to go further. When you create clearing account in QuickBook, make sure the bank account type is a bank type for this, because if you use other current asset account, you may not be able to use that clearing account for your refunds or fee amount adjustments. That's why we recommend that you create clearing accounts as a bank type in QuickBook. And then at the same time, you can also use the payment methods in QuickBook. Make sure all the payment methods through which you get collecting payments, they are created in QuickBooks as well. So that QuickBook can classify those records in the future if you need to pull reports. And then if it's a B2B business, uh, then obviously when you have a sale, you have the product shipped to the customer, but you haven't got the money. So you have those open invoices in QuickBook, but you want to manage terms in those invoices. When you manage terms, if you say, let's say you have net 15 term, net 30 term. So it really depends what terms you have with the customers. I mean, and how many days you are supposed to get money from the customer in 15 days or net, and 30 days or 45 days. Accordingly, you create the terms in QuickBooks and maintain the terms on each wholesale open invoice order. Accordingly, QuickBook will also prepare a report for you, the AR aging report, that for how many customers you're going to receive the payment from in how many days based on the terms.
Yeah, very holistic sort of breakdown there. And yeah, I think you covered it all. Really the first, I guess, most common thing that we talk about is that deposit clearing account thing. If nothing else, I think that's one thing that you should take away from this conversation is that using clearing accounts is recommended by us for a reason. It's kind of standard practice to use clearing accounts or holding accounts, people might call them, for e-commerce specifically because you can get so granular with them. So, as an example of, using, I know we use Shopify payments clearing, but like outside of even payment handling, having a clearing account for every single channel that you use and the different uses inside of those channels, the different types of orders or different types of transactions or data that you receive is super important. So whether it be just for payments or for the orders themselves or for the sales tax, which we'll get to as well, having clearing accounts in your sort of repertoire and using them regularly for segmentation is super recommended.
Yeah,
um
remember, no money should be in your checking account in QuickBook unless it's in your bank. So it
yeah.
always stays under the holding account
Uh,
until
and
that point.
uh,
Yeah.
and it looks like Manish put a link in chat for why you should use a clearing account. That
Yeah.
sums up everything that I'm trying to say pretty perfectly there. So yeah, if nothing else, again, just hop on my soapbox for a little bit. If you take nothing else from this conversation, use clearing accounts. It helps you keep things very segmented. It allows you to, if you end up having some sort of discrepancy when you go to reconcile at the first of the month, it makes finding those discrepancies a lot easier when you can go into each bucket and understand where things are at. So
Yep.
off my soapbox. And now we'll talk about customer management. So customer management is pretty straightforward. The way that we recommend it is, if you have, and the way that we have recommended here is based on two specific workflows, but to go even simpler, if you have the need to track customer data in QuickBooks, use the individual customers tracking and have it assigned to their email and their first and last name. If you need to track it in QuickBooks. However, if you are, using, let's say, Shopify as your primary CRM, if you track your customers in Shopify specifically, that's where you do all of your, return management, like understanding, where orders are at for customers. If you manage your customers in Shopify, you probably just want to use a single default customer. And it's not just for Shopify. This applies to everything, right? Every other sales channel. Um, if you don't care about QuickBooks having each individual customer's name and information and like transaction history, and you want to see that in Shopify, a single default customer accomplishes everything that you need. It keeps your QuickBooks company file from being as bloated as it can be. Because if you think about it, the bigger your operation scales, the more orders you get. If you are tracking every single customer and all of their information, that's adding another record that's getting pushed into your QuickBooks, right? So if you're looking to keep your QuickBooks company file lean, and again, you are doing most of your management in Shopify or whatever sales channel it is, use the single default customer. If you're trying to track individual customers in QuickBooks, that's when you would use, the individual customer. This also works on a B2B business sort of standpoint. So if you're wholesale and you want to manage, your vendors, the businesses that you work with, having them set up as individual customers is sort of the recommended workflow with Webgility. So where it might sound counterintuitive because you're, working B2B wholesale and you don't look at them as like individual people, they are individual customers as businesses that you work with. So you would probably want to use the individual customer workflow for this. Again, not an end all be all. There are some workflows in B2B that you maybe still want to use a standard customer, but on the whole, I think this generally sums up what we recommend in a pretty succinct way. Anything you want to add there, Manish?
No, that's all. Good, good.
Is my screen is it's just showing the nothing's changed, right? My Zoom was having some issues. So let me just
Okay.
reshare this. I think we're good. Okay, cool. It's just never done that. It like popped up on my screen. Cool. So now we'll go to product management.
Right, that's most critical one. Okay, so your product sold out on the store, and you need records in QuickBooks. Now, what kind of records you want in your financial report? Based on that, you would have the products managed in QuickBooks. So, if you don't care about the product information, if you don't care about the each individual item detail, you just care about the financial records. What's my total revenue? This is all I care about. Then you don't need to manage inventories in QuickBooks. Maybe you're managing inventories outside QuickBook or a different inventory management system, IMS systems, or maybe you're managing inventories or directly on your POS systems or in your online channel. Then in your QuickBook, you don't require that. In QuickBook, you can just create one default product just called product sale. That's it. Link it to this GL account, products sales or product income or sales income account. That's it. Then whenever you have sales happening on the store, regardless which item has been sold out, how many quantities sold out, all this will go to that one item in QuickBook. And in your QuickBook, it will get you the financial record as well. What's the total income for out of the product? That's it. But if you really want detailed reportings, if you need to know how many sales happen out of each product, you need to manage the quantities of that product as well. You want the cost reports to be pulled out of each product. You want cost and profit margin out of each product. Then you really need to manage every single SKU you sell on the store. That has to be in QuickBook as well as an inventory item. When you create inventory items in QuickBook, make sure the name in QuickBook for that item matches with the SKU on the online channel. That's matching is very important so that two software can talked about the product, right? Or sale can be synced easily between those two platforms, and it's important. And then once when you're creating that item, apart from the name, make sure that item is connected to the correct income account, cost account, and then also inventory asset account. And then at the same time, you can define the price of the product and the cost of the product. Once you have that detail in QuickBook, any record you add in the future, maybe if you purchase that product from your vendor, when you create POs and bills in QuickBooks, QuickBook will be able to pull right records based on the item detail. Whenever you're selling that item on the sales channels, when you're creating sales in QuickBooks for that item, QuickBook will be able to prepare the not just the income report, but also it will be able to prepare cost of goods sold report, profit margin report for you. So if you really need retail breakdown, make sure every single item is available in your QuickBook with all the proper records, right accounts, right name, and all the price and cost information. Uh, yeah, apart from that, if you are selling variations of each product, you got one product, one shirt, but you have multiple sizes, multiple colors as well. So make sure each particular variation has its unique entry in QuickBook with a unique name that's going to match with your unique SKU code as well on the store, so that sale can be recorded to the right item and inventory can be managed as well properly. Group items when you're selling groups. So make sure you have groups added in QuickBook. If you don't do that, then inventory would not be managed properly. Your income records will be inaccurate as well. QuickBook has an option wherein when you add an item in QuickBook, you can define how many different quantities are involved in that group. Or you can also define if it's a group of multiple products, how many different products are involved in that one bundle. Once you have that data predefined in your QuickBook under that group item, every time you add a sale record in QuickBook, every time a sale happen, you sync that sale to QuickBook. QuickBook automatically do the inventory adjustments correctly for each components involved in that group or bundle, and also records the correct revenue for you.
Yeah, yeah. And I think so from a product management standpoint, the biggest point here I think is in the notes, right? Is that when you're managing products, Webgility needs to know what items exist on either side of the aisle, right? So if we're talking about a Shopify or an Amazon, it doesn't matter. But we need to know on each side which product you're trying to keep in sync or pull data from, right? So if an item is sold on your Shopify, let's just say like a pair of headphones or something. We can see that a pair of headphones was sold on Shopify, but if you want the inventory to be subtracted and you want the expense data and the COGS data to be, continuously tracked, we need to know inside of QuickBooks where that item exists. So the easiest way to do that, and we call this a unique identifier in the industry, is to use the SKU. And the reason we use SKU is because SKU is a pretty universal metric across all stores. It's something that exists
Yeah.
inside of Shopify. It's very easy to make that connection. You can use things like barcodes or like custom metrics, but SKU is the most um, surefire way to make sure that that connection is made. So a lot of times, I know Manish, you could probably speak to this, but when I was in implementation, this was the biggest thing was that people would come to Webgility and they'd have 20,000 SKUs, and the SKUs would be different between their Shopify and their QuickBooks because to be fair, they never had to think about those things being needing to be the same to communicate with each other, right? So I would say the biggest hurdle for most people is making sure that you have a SKU that matches on both ends. There are some workflows that you can, follow that allow you to bulk update your SKUs in QuickBooks using the import tool to update them to what Shopify has or what your store has. But that is the biggest thing to take away from here is that in order for Webgility to even make this connection between your variants, your attributes, your styles, your grouped or bundled products, your individual inventory items, we need to be able to see that those items exist on both sides so that when we pull an order from whatever store it is, we can, pass that order into QuickBooks and have it map directly where it needs to go, essentially.
Yep. I always put it simply, in a simple way. In the e-commerce industry, when it comes to syncing, nothing works if items are not matching. So yeah, it's very important. Your inventory cannot be syncing, cannot be in the sync. Your cost, priced, or your sales would not be synced as well. Even if you're syncing POs somehow, your POs would not be synced as well because softwares do not know which product we are talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So if we don't know, then there's not going to be any syncing or data transferring happening, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, biggest
And
thing,
so,
just make sure this
y-
matches.
yeah, it's a one-time work. All the hard work you do once on your product is really gonna save you a lot of time in the future, no matter what program you're using for the syncing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. And now let's talk about chart of accounts.
All right. So, yeah, in order to make sure that all of your records gets recorded in QuickBook, especially for the product sale happening. you have to make sure you have the right accounts in QuickBooks. So for the product specifically that you sell, the merchandise goods, you have to have three important accounts in your QuickBook. One is income account for the revenue. One is inventory asset account that gives a report on your inventories and product value, and the cost. COGS account as well important to make sure your COGS reports are being maintained. So these three accounts are mandatory when you manage inventory type item in QuickBook. And you can also do the further breakdown of these accounts. For example, if you have five different categories of your product, and if in your profit and loss report at the end of the year, you really want to see how much income you got out of clothing, how much income you got out of shoes, how much income you got out of caps or another accessories. If you really want your P&L reports or financial records to show that breakdown as well, then you can create different categories of income account. So maybe you have five income account, clothing sales income account, shoe sale income account, or cap sale income account in QuickBooks. And when you create items in QuickBooks, make sure you connect that dedicated item to the respective income account in QuickBooks. Once it's linked, that's done. Every time you are adding records, sales, POs, it's all being getting recorded in QuickBook, and QuickBook will prepare reports out of that. And at the end of the year or month, even or maybe after the quarter, when you pull your P&L report, you'll be able to see the breakdown on your income statement as well. How much income got generated out of each category of your products. Yep.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. And just to kind of continue the chart of accounts conversation, honestly, this is more of a reference sheet. So if you want to make sure that things run smoothly, it's a good idea to make sure that you have all of these types of accounts set up in your chart of accounts to make the Webgility workflow easier, essentially,
Yeah.
right?
So
So
apart from the product you sell, you definitely come across a lot of different amounts on your sales or from the sales channels. You're gonna collect shipping from your customers. You would have discount offered, coupon offered as well. Maybe the gift card sold out, gift card redeemed, or any other amount like maybe transaction fee charged by your merchant account on every single order payment you're collecting from the customer, and also sometimes it's a fee refunds or some additional refund adjustment amount outside your product sale. Maybe you're just giving $20 back to your customer as a compensation. You want to record that refund amount. So you really have to have a dedicated category in QuickBooks. You need to have the specific products in QuickBooks for them. So yeah, item has to be created and item type has to be accordingly, as you can see on the screen. For example, if it's a discount you want to record in QuickBooks, it's just like a placeholder. You have to have a place in QuickBooks where you want to show that specific record or amount. So if it's a discount, it has to be a specific discount item type in QuickBooks. If it's shipping, you're not going to have maybe a service or other charge item in QuickBooks. If it's maybe transaction fee as well, you can include other charge items. And if it's a sales tax, you really want to create a sales tax item as well. And link those accounts, link those items in QuickBooks to the respective chart of accounts as well. If you don't have this, if QuickBooks is new, make sure you create them all in QuickBooks as what you can see on the screen accordingly. And then you can start adding sales in QuickBooks. Without that, if you don't have any of this item, don't have any account, and if your sale has this amount, QuickBooks gonna miss those amounts, honestly, and then your P&L would not be accurate.
yeah, exactly. So, sort of going back to the clearing account conversation that we had, this is just another extension of that, right? But more to a more specific use. So, making sure that you have a place for your shipping income, for a place for your discounts, and maybe a couple different places for your discounts to go to make sure that you can, separate them depending on, what it is, like what the discount was offered and what the actual coupon was. Because there are two different types of discounts, and then stuff like gift cards, transaction fees, fee refunds, fee adjustments. Those things might sound like you're sort of splitting hairs or that you're getting too in the weeds. But you can have it done automatically at the end of the day, right? Like you can set Webgility up to pull that information in and go directly to the accounts that you've determined. So you don't have to do anything except for that initial management. And if you don't use that data, if you're not, looking at that data on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't hurt you any, but it does allow you to go back if something is, again, mismatched or you have some sort of discrepancy. Allows you to go back and look at it in a granular way and understand where that discrepancy came from a lot quicker. So you're not digging through. A good example here is a lot of people use undeposited funds for, a lot of their transactions. And when something happens, and you have to go back and dig through undeposited funds, which is essentially just like sort of a junkyard of lost data. It takes a lot longer to figure out where things are going wrong. So, all right, and sales tax. Sales tax we could talk about, till our ears bleed. And luckily, Manish, you can attest to this, but Webgility isn't a sales tax provider, so we really at the end of the day can just give you some advice on how to make sure that it's set up to flow properly. But at the end of the day, it's pretty straightforward. If you are confident that your QuickBooks company file, whether it's in QBO or QBD, is set up with the correct tax jurisdictions, you can let the tax jurisdictions run, let QuickBooks calculate things on its own. If you're confident that QuickBooks is set up properly with those tax jurisdictions. The problem and sort of the spiel that we give people is that with a store like Shopify or again like Amazon, that sales tax is automatically being collected at checkout, right? So in reality, QuickBooks shouldn't need to do any recalculating because you already got the correct amount from your store, whether it be Amazon or Shopify or whatever it is. Amazon very specifically, remits and collects for you. So all you need to do is pass that data along and make sure that you have the paper trail on your end to be able to, match things up, line things up if you need to. Same thing with Shopify. They don't remit for you though. So making sure that you have the, jurisdiction set up correctly and that it is mapped is a lot more important on the Shopify end. In Webgility, it's just as simple as making sure that you're collecting it as a line item. In QuickBooks, you just have to make sure that the sales tax has a line item that it can go to. So generally what we recommend if you're like, again, I use Shopify as an example because it's super common. Setting up a line item in QuickBooks that translates to Shopify sales tax, right? Then whenever an order comes through with sales tax from Shopify, you can map the exact sales tax amount directly to that holding or clearing account. And that makes it super simple to track, and a lot more straightforward. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Manish. I didn't touch on the QBO, like having QuickBooks calculated too much, but
Yeah, even with QuickBook Online, so the simple idea is if you're selling on e-commerce industry, e-commerce platform is managing your sales tax. All the sales tax codes, rules, and percentage are applied on your uh, during the checkout on your e-commerce platform. So you don't need to maintain all those records in accounting system. You just need a place where you can add the collected tax amount in QuickBook. That's it. And if QuickBook does the recalculation, it's a disastrous situation. So we always make sure that uh, the line items situation that we use is the best way we want to avoid QuickBook recalculating. So line item is what we can create. Maybe one default line item where all sales tax can be recorded regardless which area, which city, county, or state we have collected the tax. In QuickBook, it all goes as one default tax item in QuickBook. And if you need detailed reports to file your taxation to tax authority, then just use a detailed report from e-commerce. All e-commerce platform provide you the detailed tax reports that can be utilized to file a tax to the tax authorities. But if you still need detailed reporting in accounting system as well, no matter what, I really want detailed breakdown in my QuickBook as well, how much tax has been collected out of each state or county, then you can do that further hard work. You can create all those. Let's say if you're collecting tax from 10 different locations, create 10 different line item in QuickBook, and we can do the mapping through WebGility. For Alabama to Alabama in QuickBook, for if it's California, we can link it to California item in QuickBook. So every time the sale is coming, the tax amount will go to the respective item in QuickBook without any recalculation. So yeah, the records in your QuickBook will be accurate.
perfect. Perfect. And just to sort of loop back around, Gene asked a question in chat for multiple currencies a couple minutes ago. Just I would assume that would apply to multiple currencies too, as we were talking about chart of accounts. So to sort of answer her or I don't know.
Yeah, let me dive into it. I'm glad she
Yeah,
asked
I
about it.
posted
So
a link in chat for handling multiple currencies in Webgility Desktop. So there's a whole help
perfect.
document on that. But yeah, if you want to touch on it a little bit as well.
Yeah, two important things to know about multi-currency is when you're managing QuickBooks for everything, you have to have a GL account, chart of account, but you do not need to create every GL account for the different currency. All GL account you create is going to be the common, like you're creating just one shipping income account, one product income account, one discount account. For the multi-currency to be managed, all you need to do is just enable multi-currency option in QuickBooks and only four things which are required to be able to manage multi-currency data in your QuickBook. When I say data, regardless whether it's a sale or purchases, only four things. One, customer. If you're having sales from different current countries, make sure you have a dedicated currency customer in QuickBook. When you create customer, you have the currency option. Define the currency, whether the customer belong to US or Canada. That's one thing. The second thing is the AR account. If you are using the AR account is very important as well. AR account has to be in the respective currency. If you're getting sales from Canada, for example, if your QuickBook is in the US dollar home currency, but you're getting sale from Canada. So make sure you have the customer with the Canada currency, AR account in QuickBook with the Canada currency, vendor. If you're having the expenses, you want to record expenses, then make sure the vendors are created under the respective Canada currency. And then the final thing is the clearing account or bank account or holding account that we talked about initially should be in the respective currency. So customers for your sales. Uh, AR account for sales payment management, deposit account for again reconciliation and deposits, and then the vendor for the expenses. Four things only need required. Nothing else need to be differentiated for the currency.
Yeah, yeah, well said. And sort of what I sort of just to kind of boil it down the way that I explained it was, you know, multiple currencies is an added just layer of complexity, right? So you're not just introducing one additional account, you're sort of putting a layer of additional complexity on top of your existing workflow. So just making sure that you've, set everything up around that layer of complexity to work with your workflow is important there. So setting up all the accounts to make sure that you're granular in that specific currency for each currency is important. But
Yeah.
um, cool. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think that's a good call out. Thank you for asking that question. I think that's one that a lot of people have. Multiple currencies tends to get pretty complicated. Not even because I know we just talked about it being, pretty straightforward in terms of the amount of accounts that you need to create, but when you're talking about introducing multiple currencies, it gets really out of hand just from like a conceptual standpoint, right? It can get really confusing to just talk about. So, if you do run into any issues or you need any help, just reach out to our team and we can walk you through it. It's something that we have to have conversations about pretty frequently, so we're used to it. All right, and the proper reconciliation setup. This will sort of round out the information that we're covering today, and then Manish can sort of live demo it. So just to sort of wrap up everything here, if you want to have a proper closing, if you want to get to your month end or your first of the month close in a couple days, generally what I preach on my e-commerce clinic sessions every Thursday is you want to shoot for like 1 to 3 days at the beginning of the month, where you just have a checklist that you run through, and this sort of enables that checklist that I talk about is making sure that you have a clearing account for each of your sales channels, not just one, but you want to have one for each of your sales channels, so that order data gets funneled properly. You want to have a vendor for your fees. You want to have expense account for any transaction related fees, refund adjustment line items, and then fee refund line items. That gives you a solid setup for making sure that whatever data is passed from Webgility to QuickBooks is set up in a way that you can reconcile easily. So this gives you that granularity. I know we talked about having more than that, having accounts set up for every little thing. That is not necessarily required, but it is, in our perfect world, in Webgility perfect world, we recommend having an account for everything, giving everything its own right place so that you can track it easily. But this at least gives you a jumping off point to making sure that you have, that solid foundation to be able to close at the beginning of the month. So this is where we get to the live demo. I'll kill my screen share here if you want to hop into yours. After the live demo, we will answer questions. And honestly, I like to treat the whole thing as a Q&A session. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them now while Manish is going. I try to answer them in chat as we go along as well. So we can kind of do both things at once.
Yep. And we're gonna talk about everything already on how things should be managed. But in your QuickBook navigations, where exactly I go to create all those things. So first thing, uh, we talked about sales order management, different order types, sales orders or invoices. So right when you get into the QuickBook, you already have the options right in front of you on the home page. Create a sales order. Again, for the kind of businesses wherein you are selling the product, you just get the order first. You're not sure about the fulfillment. You don't want inventory to be adjusted. The sales order is a type you create, and then right here you have option for the invoices. Again, once you have a sales order created, you can convert them to the invoices directly. Or if your business is like you're selling the uh, finished goods, you have the quality available already for the sales. You can create invoices directly. If it's a B2B business, you can use invoices. If it's a B2C, you can maybe go for the sale receipt option right on the screen here. Create sale receipt. Uh, yeah, it's a close entry, so you also have an option for the order payment options here, and the moment you create sale receipt, it shows the order payment under the respective deposit account. Now, if the QuickBook is new, and let's say if I have to maybe create an invoice, but I have got to this page, but I don't have any other detail. I don't have the customer. So, to prepare QuickBook initially, for example, if I have to create a default customer, I can create a default customer right from here. If I don't want to manage all these store customer into the QuickBook, I can just create one default customer right from this window. Uh, yeah, let me use something different here. I already had this customer. Class is another way I use in my QuickBook to differentiate the records based on the sales channel, or just classify your business records. So if you're getting sales from different auto sales channel platforms, you can create different classes right from here. AR can be created if you are using different multi-currency data, then you can create AR account right from here. And when you create this kind of account, especially customer or AR account, you do get an option about currency. If multi-currency option is already available in your QuickBook right from this drop down. So you can create this one. Uh, when it comes to the items, if I have to create different items, I can also create the item codes right from here. From this one page, I can prepare my QuickBook for all the required things. I can add the item right from here. If it's a discount I'm offering to the client, discount item is what I'll select. I'll use maybe online discount. Percentage is not required because percentage are always on your sales channels on your e-commerce platform, so don't have to add it. And discount is a non-taxable item. And this is the drop down to link this discount item to its respective account. Yeah, we can look for this. If we have something already, we can connect. If we don't have anything, we can add a new one. Yep, let's add a new one then, right from here. Yep, and right from here, we can also add different items, shipping, tax, discount item as well, and have the QuickBook prepared. Different, if I don't do this from here, then we have different navigations available in QuickBooks. For items, you go to list, go to item list here, add all the required items, the product you sell, or all the respective amounts item like shipping, discount, and then for accounts, you can go to list, chart of accounts on this area. Yep, that's the GL area on your QuickBook. And other things which are important is payment methods or shipping methods that you manage. So you can go to them from the list, customer, and then yeah, payment methods you can add if you're collecting payment through MasterCard, Visa, Shopify, Amazon. Make sure they're all here. Shopify is not here on my end, so if I'm selling on Shopify, I should have that Shopify payment method as well in QuickBook. Uh, yep, and if I want to add another other detail like payment terms, if I'm selling on terms, if it's a B2B business, I can add more terms here like net 30. is not net 45 is not here. So I'm using Control N. That's a shortcut to add new item, chart of account, or any entry in your QuickBook. So if it's a net 45, I'm just gonna say net 45, net due in 45 days. Nothing else I would add as of now. It's all good. Okay, maybe 50 I can add or 90. Uh, yeah, this is the navigation. We already discussed about the details, what has to be utilized, and a couple of things I would like to discuss specifically is sales tax. When we were talking about sales tax, we discussed that you don't want QuickBook to do the recalculation. So the bottom right corner field, if you have tax settings enabled, the field is mandatory. You cannot leave the bottom right corner field blank. So you really want to show something here like no tax with a zero tax rate, so that QuickBook does not do the calculation. And the tax you collect from the store, as we discussed, it should be the line item. So that can be recorded as a line item in the body of the order, like this Shopify tax or online sales tax, whichever the store name you have, give that name here. Just call it online sales tax, and then whatever tax amount collected, $10, $5 would be as a line item. This way, no calculation happening is in QuickBook, and then amount would not be changed as collected what's selected from the store. If you need the breakdown, then you can definitely create different sales tax. For example, I have this Arizona, Almara, different tax code, California sales tax, and QuickBooks. So yeah, but with the no, with no percentage here, so that QuickBooks doesn't do the calculation. It's just gonna collect the amount as it is from the store with no trouble. Yep, and yeah, this is all I wanted to explain actually. In your accounting system, make sure QuickBooks has all that's required to be able to manage sales records. And when it comes to sales record, it's not just the one record. It includes a lot of details: customer, products, tax, shipping, discounts, gift cards, so many things. So make sure it's ready for your e-commerce data, and then you can use any product, whether your any sync application you're using should be able to sync the records easily to your QuickBook.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Thanks for demoing that. I think it's important to, contextualize it with exactly how it looks in QuickBooks. QuickBooks
Yeah,
can be
and
pretty confusing at
w-
times. So
one more thing I would like to share, very important thing is. Uh, there are so many competitors in the market. Why Webgility is better? Because it really has options to configure the settings according to your business, according to accounting requirements. Most of the sync applications available in the market has just a way option to sync it. But if your business is unique, if it has specific requirement, then settings cannot be modified. So that's unique in Webgility. For every kind of business you have, when you go to the sync settings, you can choose the order sync type as per your business need from the Webgility setting. And if you really need to differentiate, if you just have one sales channel with a variety of the different data under just one roof of the sales channel, then you can differentiate the posting to QuickBook based on the payment method, store category, if you have multiple store or order type or third party app. If Shopify is what you're using and Shopify has a lot of different connectors, you're getting sales from TikTok, Instagram, or other third-party sales channels on Shopify, and you need to differentiate those records in QuickBooks. So yes, the settings can be differentiated in Webgility. So I just wanted to highlight this as well, and uh, this is where our onboarding team can assist you with understanding your business, understanding your accounting requirement, and then we can have the settings configured accordingly for you.
perfect. Yeah, well said. Yeah, so to kind of wrap it up, I'll share my screen just so we can end on the Q&A. If you have any questions, now is the best time to ask them. There is a dedicated Q&A. I know we're a little bit over on time, so we can just end it early or end it now, and give everybody some time back in their day. But if you do have questions or need any help from our team, as Manish said, we are always here. Just go to the Webgility, website and initiate a chat, and we can get you with our team there. If you're in the app or on your portal, you can do it through there as well. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, we are here. We exist. Webgility exists to sort of empower you guys to have an easier life when it comes to managing your e-commerce accounting. So anything that we can do to kind of facilitate that is something that we're happy to do. But I appreciate you guys joining today. Again, the office hours is something that should happen every other Wednesday. So we'll do another session, probably very similar to this topic, if not the exact same topic, but covering the QuickBooks Online sort of ecosystem in 2 weeks. And then we'll have a fresh topic a month from now, which would be on the 1st of July. So we'll cover a new topic on the 1st of July. If you guys have recommendations or anything that you wanted to cover, wanted to see us cover as a team, let us know. You can drop it in chat now. You could send me an email directly. I'm probably going to set up some sort of like feedback form inside of the emails that we send. But this session is recorded, so every time we do one of these, I have to just get the recording processed by Zoom and then cut it and upload it to YouTube. So you should see that today. You'll get the slide deck in PDF form as well, so that you can review the slide deck if you just want to read through it. And then any additional links or resources that are necessary that will be included. But um, yeah, that's all I had for today. Anything else you wanted to add, Manish?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, appreciate you guys. Everybody enjoy the rest of your day. And have a wonderful week.